Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my first what to do next video and it will be on Criminal Minds. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be doing all types of reviews, breakdowns, what to do next on films, TV shows, books and a lot more. So please keep on watching. For what to do next, I will be discussing what I think films, TV shows and books can do to captivate us again, and what they can do to actually become interesting again. Criminal Minds is or was an amazing TV show about a section of the FBI called the Behavioral Analyst Unit, or the BAU, and what they do is they predict behaviors of serial killers in an attempt to stop them. Criminal Minds ran for 15 years, 15 seasons, and it ended in February 2020. So a few months ago they announced that they are doing a reboot for, I believe it's Paramount Plus. I am really excited about the reboot, but I think that there are some things that they need to change to make it a successful reboot and to get our interest. For a show that ran for 15 seasons, I will say they did an amazing job of keeping the serial killers and the reason why they kill entertaining. But I think where it fell off was, I would say, season 12. So season 12 is the season where Morgan leaves. So Morgan leaves at the end of season 11. And I think it's episode 2 of season 12, Hotch leaves as well. I will say this is when it started to go downhill, simply because you removed 2 huge characters. For a show that ran for 15 seasons, I think what started to make Criminal Minds go downhill, they were stuck in their ways, and because it was so rigid, it was hard to get out of that. This is what a Criminal Minds episode would sound like week to week. It will open up, somebody has been murdered or somebody's been rescued, then they go to the members of the BAU, they get the texts that, oh, there's a case, and then they go to the plane, and then they're on the plane, someone says wheels up, and then they land, and then they go to the police stations, and then they get all of their stories, and then Garcia finds really good information that leads them to one person, and then they go and arrest that one person, they talk that person down, and then they're back on the plane, and then they read the quote, and then they're done. That was a basic episode of Criminal Minds, and it became too repetitive. And to make us interested again, they're going to have to stop that. They're going to have to break out of that mold. So although the weekly cases were usually quite interesting, they have different ideas about different murderers and why they commit their murders, and it was usually quite interesting. And one thing that I would say was boring on a week-to-week basis was I would say the interactions between the main cast members and their backstories. They basically were non-existent. They would have a little 1-2 joke here, and then it will be all about the criminal and why the criminal did what they did, and then they would arrest the criminal. It was all about the criminal and very little to do with the main characters. And because the show ran for 15 years, it was, unfortunately, they were caught between 2 generations of TV. So you have, I would say, from 2010 onwards, life basically became a reality TV show. You know, TV was all about reality. You had the housewives, you had Keeping Up the Kardashians. We wanted real life, real interactions. We wanted the love, the sex, the everything. And they were able to get away with basically being about the criminals for so long, because that's obviously what we started with. But then when around season 12, when they got rid of the 2 main characters, obviously we were left with a big dent. We realized that, well, there wasn't much there. And if you remove the serial killer element for just 1 or 2 episodes, you're not left with a lot. And I know what you're thinking, why would you remove the serial killers from a show that's all about the criminals and serial killers? Well, in my opinion, if you remove the medical aspect from Grey's Anatomy or Chicago Med, you are still left with an amazing story and, you know, there's still storylines there for you to follow along. The main characters' personal lives are so interesting, and they're enough to carry the show even if they are not in the hospital. And I think they did a few characters well, like Dr. Spencer Reid. In my opinion, he is the best character on that show because he went through a lot. Obviously, he became drug addict because he was injected by a serial killer, and he had to deal with his schizophrenic mother, deal with his dead girlfriend, his girlfriend being shot right in front of him. He went through a lot on that show, behind the scenes, without having, the criminal fighting aspect to him, and the other characters didn't have to go through that. I'd say other than Prentice and obviously what she went through with being Lauren Reynolds or whatever, the undercover work, none of the other characters had to go through much. Just imagine how good the show would have been if Reed and JJ's relationship would have been established in the earlier seasons. Her still being married, her still having children, but if there was this sort of lingering feeling of like and love between them established in season 4 and continued to season 14, where it eventually goes down, where they eventually say, I like you to each other. That would have been so good instead of the 3-episode arc that we did eventually have. And just imagine how good it would have been if Garcia and Alvez's relationship was actually more. And the season finale, they did this whole I like you, can I get your number sort of thing. But imagine how good it would have been if that was actually the case when he actually came to the show. If that was something bubbling from previous seasons. We should have seen it. They should have given us a hint. Like, not bring it up in the season finale and expect us to be all happy about it. Why didn't we see it? One of the main ways that they can improve Criminal Minds for the reboot is by giving us subplots. I have been thinking of the word to describe what was missing, but the word is subplots. The current show or the previous show had no subplots. It was the story popped out of nowhere with, Prentice being Lauren, and I think the only one with a subplot was Reed and his schizophrenic mum. Other than that, none of the other ones really had any subplots. They had no story behind them in their home life and what they got up to. And that's what we need. We need subplots that continue throughout the seasons. And the subplot storylines can be really good. Imagine how good it would have been if Rossi became an alcoholic, how that would affect his work. Imagine how good it would have been if, like I said before, there was a subplot if JJ and Reed were actually, feeling each other, little looks, touches, all of that. So those sort of subplots will then carry the seasons forward, and then the main plot would obviously be the serial killers and what they're doing, but the subplots can then carry the story as well. There was an episode towards the end of Criminal Minds where they had an episode where there was no serial killers, and that was a really good episode. They all had a day off and we followed them on their day off. Reed met Max, so that was a really good episode. It's funny because Criminal Minds is clearly an adult TV show. I think it's rated at 15, but all of the characters are so PG. Nothing interesting happens in their life. They're so above board and so PG, and it's boring. It's boring, to be quite frank. Like, there were a few episodes in the earlier seasons where Reed got that bartender's number. What happened on their date, if they had a date? What happened where he got the girl's number from the stakeout? Did they eventually go out? Did they sleep together? There was an episode where Tara and Alves were clearly flirting. Why didn't they explore this more? There's on multiple occasions that Morgan got all the girls, but we did not see that at all. And I would have loved to have seen those episodes or seen him getting girls and Reed not getting girls. Yeah, so they need to stop telling us and show us. And in the reboot, I want to see that. I want to see the relationships, the breakdowns explored more. So to make the reboot worth watching, they need to include subplots about the main characters' lives. So this can include, mental breakdowns, cheating, health problems, marriage, love, kids. The subplots need to be there, and they need to be big. They don't have to be as big as, the main plots, the serial killers and stuff like that, but it needs to be big to hold our attention. And it can't be so PG. I do like the fact that they were all friends and families and whatever, but it can't be so PG. The show is a 15. We see blood, guts, murder, rape, we see it all. So why are their personal lives so PG? They need to ramp it up and give us more. It has to be adult, it's an adult TV show. So why don't we see the actual adult lives of these characters, and a part of these adult lives, it's gonna be messy. We need the mess. we need the mess. That is how to get us interested again, I believe. Give us gritty characters that we fall in love with, because if we're basing this on real life, with real life people and characters, it's going to be messy. I'm sure all of us, our everyday jobs, have a lot of salacious things happening at work. The boss is sleeping with this person, this is happening to that person, this person's an alcoholic. Don't get me started about what happens at Christmas parties at work and in work environments and stuff like that. That's the sort of thing that I think this show needs to make it interesting. It needs to be salacious. We need to see a toxic environment. It doesn't have to be toxic for the most part, but it would be interesting to watch. And I'm sure the actual FBI in Quantico, I'm sure that work environment is a bloody mess. I'm sure things happen there that will make our hair stand up on the back of our necks. And if they do it my way, I know some characters are probably going to end up being hated, some characters are probably going to end up being loved. But that is the point of a TV show. You hate, you love, you cry, the emotions have to be there, and that's what I want from this reboot. So I think they're going to have to mess up the structure of the show, so there's no more beginning, they get the case, middle, they solve the case, end, they solve the case and go home. I think they're going to have to make it so that they spend maybe more time on cases. So rather than solving a case in one episode, it can be over a course of 3 episodes. Imagine if an episode went like this. JJ and Reed wake up in bed together. They spent the night together. They argue in the morning because obviously she's married, he's her best friend and the godfather to her child. Then they get a text saying that a case has come in. They leave, get on the plane. There's clear tension between them on the plane. They land. They obviously go to investigate. They investigate. They're in that city for 3 weeks rather than just the 1 day. Over the case of the 3 weeks, the tension becomes less and less, and then they sleep with each other again while they are on the case. And then they solve the case. A week later, she returns home. She doesn't tell her husband, but she still loves Jet Reed and wants to be with him as well. And then that will carry us for the next few episodes. So they need to make sure that it's not so quick. Extend the time. Don't make it so that it's new case, new serial killer. Build up the serial killer, kill the serial killer. Make the subplots as big as the main plot. Then that way they don't have to spend so much time creating new serial killers every episode, giving them so much character development that character development can go to the main characters if they only focus on a few serial killers every season. Thank you for watching this episode of What to Do Next Criminal Minds. Watch out for part 2, where I'll be going even more detail as to what I want these subplots to be. Thank you. Like, comment and subscribe. Bye.